I was 18 the last time I saw my mother. The memory isn't blurry, it's sharp, like broken glass that never dulls no matter how many years pass. I had just finished washing the dinner dishes, the kitchen still smelling faintly of garlic and soap, when she turned to me with eyes that were colder than I'd ever seen. "You are dead to me." Those words weren't shouted. They were spoken almost calmly, as if she were stating a fact she had already accepted. I stood frozen, a plate slipping from my wet hands and shattering on the tile floor. The sound echoed through the room, but she didn't even flinch. She simply turned her back and walked away, leaving me standing there with shards of glass at my feet and a hollow ache in my chest. That night, I packed a single bag and left. There was no goodbye, no hug, no hesitation on her part. Just silence and a slammed door. From that moment forward, I was on my own. The years that followed were long and uneven. I worked small jobs, rented a tiny apartment that smelled of damp paint, and survived on instant noodles more times than I could count. Birthdays passed without a call. Holidays arrived like empty reminders that family was something other people had. I told myself I didn't care. I told myself I didn't need her. But at night, lying awake in that narrow bed, I would hear her words again. "You are dead to me." They carved themselves into me like a brand I could never remove. 12 years later, I thought I had buried the past. I had friends I trusted, routines that gave me comfort, and a quiet kind of independence I had built brick by brick. Then the phone rang. It was a Tuesday evening, just after work. The city outside my apartment window buzzed with traffic and voices, but my room was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. When the call came in, the number on the screen was unfamiliar. Normally, I would have let it go to voicemail. But something, curiosity, instinct, maybe even a faint sense of dread, made me swipe and answer. "Hello." At first, I heard only static. Then a voice. Faint. Fragile. Cracked with age. "It's me." My heart stopped. I hadn't heard her voice in over a decade, yet it was unmistakable. My grip on the phone tightened until my knuckles turned white. "Why are you calling me?" My words came out sharper than I intended, but the question carried 12 years of silence and pain. Her breathing was uneven, almost a wheeze, as though speaking itself cost her effort. Then came the words I never expected. "I need you." I closed my eyes, pressing a hand against my forehead. Those two words should have meant nothing. This was the same woman who had thrown me out without a second thought. The same woman who had declared me dead to her. Now she wanted me back in her life, not with an apology, not even with regret, but with need. "What do you mean?" I asked after a long silence, though part of me didn't want to know. "I'm sick," she said simply. "And I have no one else." I couldn't speak. I could hear her labored breathing through the line, each exhale shallow, unsteady. My chest tightened. My mind pulled me back to that night when she turned her back on me. But over that memory now lay her weakened voice, asking for help. I ended the call without making any promises. My hands trembled as I set the phone on the table. I told myself not to get involved, not to let her pull me back into the orbit I had fought so hard to escape. But the words wouldn't leave me. "I need you." Sleep didn't come easily that night. I tossed in bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering what kind of sickness she had, wondering if this was a trick, wondering why after 12 years she chose now. And underneath all those questions was one I hated myself for still asking. Did she ever love me at all? The next morning, I was still restless. I went to work, sat through meetings, typed emails, but her voice followed me like a shadow. By evening, I found myself packing a small bag. I told myself it was just to get closure, to see with my own eyes what she wanted. I told myself I wasn't going back as her daughter, I was going back as a stranger. The train ride felt endless. The rhythm of the tracks only gave me more time to think, to remember, to doubt. And then, as the train slowed into the familiar station near my old neighborhood, my stomach tightened. I hadn't walked those streets in over a decade. Everything looked smaller, worn down, like time had eroded not just the houses, but the memories attached to them. Her house was at the end of the block, a faded structure with peeling paint and a sagging porch. I stood at the gate for a long time, my pulse hammering in my ears. Finally, I knocked. The door creaked open, and there she was. My mother. But she wasn't the same. Her once sharp posture was bent, her skin pale, her eyes sunken. For the first time, she looked vulnerable. For the first time, she looked breakable. You came, she whispered. I froze on the doorstep. I hadn't decided whether I was here to forgive her, to confront her, or to walk away again. All I knew was that this was only the beginning. I stepped into the house slowly, my shoes pressing against the same old wooden floorboards that used to creak under my teenage footsteps. The air smelled faintly of dust and medicine, and the curtains were drawn, leaving the living room dim. Everything felt smaller, darker, and strangely unfamiliar, even though I had once called it home. My mother closed the door behind me with effort, leaning on the frame for support. Up close, I could see how much she had changed. Her hands trembled slightly, her face was thinner, and her voice, when she finally spoke again, was weak but steady. I didn't think you'd come, she said. I looked at her, struggling to find my voice. You told me I was dead to you. 12 years ago. Why no? She lowered herself onto the couch, wincing as if even sitting hurt. For a long moment, she avoided my eyes. Then she whispered, because I don't have anyone else. Her words landed heavy, but they didn't feel like enough. I wanted answers, not just excuses. My chest tightened with a mix of anger and, something I hated to admit, pity. What's wrong with you? I asked. She took a shallow breath. Lung disease. The doctors, they said it's serious. Her voice cracked, and for the first time, I saw fear flicker across her face. I stood there frozen. Part of me wanted to believe this was punishment, some twisted balance for what she had done to me. Another part of me, the part that still longed for a mother's love, wanted to sit beside her, to comfort her. But I stayed where I was. I didn't come here to play the role of the daughter you threw away, I said quietly. Her eyes lifted then, tired but sharp. You don't understand. It wasn't that simple. Something in her tone stopped me. She wasn't defending herself angrily. She wasn't denying what she said all those years ago. She sounded almost regretful, but not fully. As if there was more beneath the surface. What do you mean? I pressed. She hesitated, her fingers twisting the edge of the blanket draped over the couch. There are things you don't know. About me. About our family. The words sent a chill down my spine. Secrets. Lies. All those years of silence weren't just abandonment, they were hiding something. I opened my mouth to demand more, but she leaned back exhausted. Not now, she whispered. I don't have the strength tonight. I clenched my fists, torn between storming out and staying. I should have left. I should have walked away the same way she had walked away from me years ago. But curiosity, the same thing that had made me answer her call, rooted me to the spot. As I finally turned to leave the living room, I noticed something on the side table. A stack of unopened envelopes, all addressed to her, from names I didn't recognize. Some were medical. Others looked more personal. I didn't touch them. Not yet. But I knew one thing. Whatever my mother was hiding, it wasn't just about her illness. And I wasn't sure I was ready to learn the truth. The next morning, I woke to the sound of coughing. It was harsh, deep, almost violent, echoing through the thin walls of the old house. For a moment, I froze in the small guest room, listening. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to remind myself I didn't belong here anymore. But I found myself pushing the door open and stepping into the hallway. She was in the kitchen, hunched over the table, one hand gripping her chest as the other held a tissue. The frailty of her frame startled me. This wasn't the mother I remembered, the woman who once carried herself with sharp pride, whose voice could cut me down in a single sentence. This was someone else. You should see a doctor, I said quietly. She gave me a tired look. Doctors cost money. The way she said it, flat, almost offensive, made me pause. That's when my eyes fell on the stack of envelopes I had noticed the night before. They were still there, untouched, a pile of unopened truths. What are those? I asked. She didn't answer. I walked over and picked one up. It wasn't medical like I expected. It was from a name I didn't recognize, handwritten. My stomach tightened. I looked at her, waiting for an explanation. Her eyes started away. They're nothing. Nothing. My voice sharpened. You erased me from your life. You told me I was dead to you. And now I find you surrounded by unopened letters from people I don't even know? You owe me the truth. Her lips trembled, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of shame in her expression. She didn't lash out like she used to. She didn't bark an order or turn her back. Instead, she whispered, "It wasn't just about you. I was protecting you." The words hit me like a slap. Protecting me? From what? What are you talking about? I demanded. She closed her eyes, coughing again before she spoke. There were things your father did. Things I couldn't let touch you. When I cut you off, it wasn't because I stopped loving you. It was because being near me meant being near all of it. My chest tightened. Memories of my father rushed back, the man who had left years before, his presence little more than a shadow. I had never asked questions back then. Maybe I was too young, maybe I was too afraid of the answers. But now, hearing her say his name like that, I felt a knot of dread forming in my stomach. What did he do? I asked, my voice low, steady, but burning with urgency. She didn't reply. She only looked at me with eyes full of something I had never seen in her before, fear. And in that silence, I realized the truth I thought I wanted might be far more dangerous than I imagined. Her eyes locked on mine, filled with something I had never seen before, fear and regret woven together. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating, until I finally broke it. You can't hide anymore, I said, my voice trembling but firm. You said you were protecting me, but your silence didn't protect me. It destroyed me. Her lips quivered as tears pooled in her eyes. When she finally spoke, her words came slowly, as though each one cost her breath. Your father, he was drowning in debt. He got involved with people he shouldn't have. Dangerous people. They threatened to take you away, to use you as leverage. I thought if I cut you off, if I made them believe you weren't part of my life, they'd leave you alone. I froze, my chest tightening. For 12 years I had carried the weight of her rejection, believing it was me, that I was unworthy, unwanted. And now, the truth was uglier and more complicated than I imagined. So instead of protecting me, you abandoned me, I said bitterly. You let me believe I was nothing to you. Her tears spilled over. It was the only way I knew. Maybe I was wrong, maybe I failed. But I never stopped loving you. Her words twisted inside me. I had longed to hear them for so many years, yet they didn't heal me. They hurt in a different way, reopening wounds I thought I had closed. I crossed my arms, steadying myself. I built my life without you. I survived without your love. You told me I was dead to you, but I lived. And I became stronger because of it. For the first time, she looked small, broken, human. She nodded weakly, as if she understood that nothing she said could erase what she had done. I gathered the pile of letters and medical papers from the table and placed them in her lap. I'll help you with your treatment, I said, my voice calm but distant. But not as the daughter you threw away. I'm not that girl anymore. I'm here on my terms. Her shoulders sagged, her eyes glistening. You've always been stronger than I ever imagined, she whispered. I stood at the door, hand on the knob. For a moment, I looked back at her frail, defeated, yet still my mother. You once called me dead, I said quietly. But I've never been more alive. And with that, I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. The air felt sharper, clearer. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying her words like chains. I was free,